Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to begin by warmly welcoming you all to launch of Kenya's National Electric Mobility Policy, a landmark step in our journey towards a cleaner, more resilient, and future-ready transport system. I take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to all stakeholders who contributed to the development of this policy. In particular, I wish to acknowledge our development partners, the European Union, the Federal Republic of Germany through GIZ, the United Kingdom through the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, the International Finance Corporation, and the University of California, Davis, USA, for the invaluable technical assistance, financial support, and capacity building efforts throughout this process, and for their continued partnership as we move into implementation. I wish to commend officials from both the public and private sector whose leadership and commitment have been instrumental in shaping Kenya's electric mobility agenda. To the task force that diligently steered this process, I extend my sincere gratitude for your efforts, dedication, and professionalism. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya's transport sector is a critical pillar of our economy, growth, social development, and national connectivity. However, it also faces a pressing challenge: its growing vulnerability to climate change and weather-related disruptions. In 2015, the transport sector accounted for 13% of Kenya's greenhouse gases emissions, a figure projected to rise to 17% by 2030 if no decisive action is taken. Between the year 2009 and 2019 alone, domestic transport emissions increased by 59%, with the road transport emerging as the single largest contributor, as we saw in the pie chart that Daga showed us. At the same time, the transport sector consumes approximately 72% of all petroleum products imported into the country, making it a major driver of Kenya's import bill. Ladies and gentlemen, according to Kenya's National Bureau of Statistics, petroleum products were the greatest single import category in 2022, with the importer spending on fuel products approximately Kenya shillings 628 billion, up sharply from 348 billion in 2021. This is the figure I talked about, $5 billion. This large fuel import bill reflects Kenya's heavy reliance on imported petroleum for transport, industry, power generation, and aviation, making fuel one of the most significant components of the country's total import expenditure. This growing expenditure places significant strain on our foreign exchange reserves, undermines energy security, and exposes our economy to global fuel vulnerability or volatility. It's against this backdrop that electric mobility emerges not merely as an option, but as a strategic necessity. The bottom-up economic transformation agenda, a better midterm plan for 2023-27, and Kenya's Vision 2030 all recognize e-mobility as a priority for climate change mitigation, industrial development, job creation, and sustainable economic growth. Similarly, the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto 2022-27 outlines target actions to accelerate the adoption of e-mobility, including the rollout of charging infrastructure in urban centers and along major highways, the provision of fiscal and non-fiscal incentives to industry players, and the promotion of electric mass transit system in our major cities. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya is a proud signatory to the Paris Agreement, through which we have committed to reduce greenhouse gas emission and addressing the impact of climate change. Under our update national determined contribution, Kenya has pledged to reduce emissions by 32% by 2030, relative to business as usual levels. We intend to achieve this through a low-carbon climate resilient development pathway that prioritizes, among other measures, the adoption of electric mobility, the development of efficient low-carbon transport system, including mass rapid transit systems such as BRTs, increased use of renewable energy in electricity generation, and we've heard that we are at close to 93% today, and therefore us, e-mobility is not about just moving a dirty fuel in energy generation to our vehicles, but really we are in a very good place. And the deployment, of course, of clean, efficient, and sustainable energy technologies. Despite these commitments, the absence until now of a comprehensive policy and legislative framework has constrained the growth of electric mobility in Kenya. The gap has limited investment, slowed innovation, hindered local manufacturing and assembly, and reduced opportunities for job creation. It has also led to missed opportunities in emission reduction, air quality improvement, and sustainable industrial development. Encouragingly, ladies and gentlemen, progress is already evident, as at 2025, Kenya has already registered a figure I want to correct because numbers are moving very fast. I think we are, from the numbers from the NTSA, National Transport Safety Authority, we are at 24,754 electric vehicles and not 43,000. And that is up from 796 vehicles in 2022, representing an over 3,000 increase in just 3 years. The border vehicle category that are widely used for the last mile connectivity registered the highest percentage increment, thanks to the various affordable EV products being introduced by financial institutions targeting the industry who are in this house today, and I want to congratulate all of us for that support. This growth signals strong market confidence and growing public acceptance of electric mobility. To further guide this transition, the government is developing a detailed national electric mobility strategy to facilitate implementation of the policy and ensure effective and coordinated execution. In addition, through the Finance Bill 2025, like has been mentioned, the government took deliberate steps to stimulate the sector by zero-rating VAT on electric buses, electric bicycles, motorcycles, and lithium-ion batteries, and equally reducing excise duty on electric bicycles, electric motorcycles, and lithium batteries. To further consolidate the gains we have made in embracing e-mobility and to strengthen the growth of this emerging industry, the government, during budgeting process, which is currently ongoing, will prioritize the acquisition of electric vehicles across all government agencies as part of their fleet enhancement strategies. This government will also in future review fiscal and non-fiscal incentives to support the industry. In the same spirit, I call upon our development partners, the private sector and non-governmental organizations, to join us in this transition by prioritizing the adoption of electric vehicles. Together, we can accelerate the shift towards sustainable transport, reduce emission, and unlock new economic opportunities for our people. Ladies and gentlemen, today the gap is decisive, addressed. The National Electric Mobility Policy that addresses all modes of transport establishes a clear, coordinated, and enabling framework to guide the adoption, regulation, and expansion of electric mobility in Kenya. It supports investments in e-mobility ecosystem, strengthens institutional coordination, fosters innovation, and encourages meaningful private sector participation. Through this policy, we aim to decarbonize and modernize our transport sector, reduce greenhouse gases emission, improve air quality, enhance energy security, and advance our broader climate commitments while unlocking the immense potential of electric mobility to create green jobs, drive inclusive economic growth under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. By leveraging Kenya's abundant renewable energy resources to power this transition, we are well positioned to reduce over-reliance on imported fossil fuels, strengthen energy security, and generate new value chains across manufacturing, assembly, and service and skill development. Ladies and gentlemen, the policy is not a pilot framework. It is a full ecosystem plan. It provides the 7 core objectives and a set of policy statements that will guide implementation across the value chain, vehicle components, charging, regulation, skills, financing, and inclusion are the same which was in the PSS presentation. But allow me to just repeat for clarity. The first being the policy establishing an institutional framework and transition target for different vehicle categories. This is critical for predictability. Investors do not scale business on uncertainty. Clear governance and targets enable manufacturers, financiers, and charging providers and fleet operators to plan, invest, and deploy at speed. The second one that we saw was the policy strengthens the legal and regulatory environment, including standards and safety. This is how we protect consumers, ensure quality, support insurance and financing, and create confidence in the market. The third, again, without the risk of really repeating so much on articulating on what the policy articulates, is the deliberately pro-industry. It promotes local manufacture and assembly of electric vehicles and builds an upstream ecosystem for auto components. This is where jobs come from: assembly lines, parts supply, workshop, charging operators, software, and after-sales service. A local electric mobility sector can stimulate economic growth by creating new industry, jobs related to manufacturing, assembly, servicing, and associated infrastructure development. The fourth that this policy addresses is the policy prioritizes infrastructure and grid readiness. We must build a reliable charging network at homes, workplace, public spaces, and along corridors.